name is Roisin. I am involved with the Irish Support Agency. I'm one of the volunteers there. And you're really welcome to the Irish 30. This is obviously a very popular one. We have lots of people joining the call tonight, parenting in the pandemic. Before we get started, I'd like to acknowledge the Bidjigal people, who are the traditional custodians of the land that I'm joining from tonight. And I pay my respects to their elders past, present and emerging. And I extend that respect to any Aboriginal or Torres Strait Islander people that are joining this evening, and also acknowledge the traditional custodians of the lands that you're all joining from across New South Wales and maybe other parts of Australia as well. Just to give a shout out to the Irish Support Agency, they're the charity that is organising these events. So you can check out their website if you're not familiar with them, but they provide lots of great support to the Irish community in Sydney. So tonight our focus is on parenting in the pandemic, and we have an amazing lineup of speakers for you this evening. We have some experts and then other experts in terms of actual parents. So we've got a nice combination. I just want to let people know that we will obviously be talking about, you know, parenting and also pregnancy. So stuff might come up in this conversation that might be a little bit hard for you. Might be talking about mental health, could be talking about loss. So just be very aware of how you're doing, and if you need to take a break at any stage, please do. And if you want further support, we will share links in the chat, so just check those out. So we'll get into it. So first of all, I want to just introduce our speakers tonight. So first of all, we have Shelley and Nora, and they are our experts working in this field. We also have Shauna, Amanda, Kevin and Becky, who are currently parenting in the pandemic. So first of all, I'm going to ask Shelley and Nora just to introduce themselves and tell us a little bit about what you do. You're both Irish, so maybe want to share a little bit about how you've ended up in working in this space in Sydney. So you're on mute, sorry, Shelley.
Hi, my name's Shelley. I'm one of the nurses. I'm a child and family health nurse, and I work in the eastern suburbs. I've been working in this line of work for about 6 years now, and I just got my lactation consultancy course completed last year. So I've worked across different fields of nursing, and you know, when we get to a certain age, we think, okay, I want to get off the wards. So I made myself into this area. I worked as a public health nurse back home in Ireland. I'm originally from Donegal, so I worked up in Inishowen, and found myself working in the eastern suburbs, which is a really great area to work in, obviously. So we've got 8 clinics across the eastern suburbs, and we've got about 30 nurses in the team. We've got a couple of social workers, and we run the breastfeeding clinics, and we do all the baby checkups. So that's me.
Hi, I'm Nora. I'm originally from Kilkenny in Ireland. I've been in Sydney just over 20 years, I think 23, 24 years now. I came here from London, and before that I was working up in Donegal, actually. But I'm a midwife, I'm a child and family health nurse, I'm a lactation consultant. And yeah, I've been working in this area, like I said, for about, well, as a midwife for a very long time, and as a child and family health nurse for about 20 years. So I think I've got a bit of experience, so hopefully we'll be able to give you all some advice and support tonight between the two of us.
Yeah. So if you've been working in this area for 20 years, I bet you probably thought you'd seen it all, and then last year hit, and I'm guessing your work changed a little bit then. So do you want to tell us how COVID is impacting the work you're doing and the work that, you know, what you're seeing with new parents and children at the moment?
So basically, I think the biggest change that we've had over the last 12 months or more, probably 18 months nearly now, is the reduced face-to-face contact that we can have with people. It was in about March last year that we started doing all our new parents groups virtually. We've also had to reduce the number of face-to-face contacts that we can have and the age group. So our focus is mainly on the newborn and the first sort of 6 to 8 weeks up to 6 months for face-to-face consults. And then after that, we offer more telehealth than we used to do, telephone consults. We're still doing some home visits for the newborns. But I think probably the biggest thing is that we've had to restrict the number of the family members that can come into the clinic that are there to provide support. And unfortunately, at the moment, only one parent can come into the clinic. And that's just because of having to adhere to the social distancing and the other public health orders that we're bound by, as well as everybody else. So probably, you know, in the hospitals, the access to visitors for maternity patients is reduced. There's new protocols in regarding testing and who can or can't visit and who can stay. So those, I think, are the biggest impacts of the pandemic on our service.
And what sort of wider impacts do you think is that having for new parents?
Look, I don't know. It's all really new. So we don't have a lot of research or a lot of studies yet that have come out that have said that this is the effect. But I think anecdotally, what we'd be looking at is certainly an increase in vulnerabilities in people, perhaps an increase in anxiety and depression, maybe because they can't have people from home come and visit them. There isn't the support here. Like, you can't go out and you can't mix, you can't meet other new parents face to face. We don't know yet what the impact is on breastfeeding rates or other sort of things in the physical domain. But I think certainly in the psychosocial domain, the isolation and the lack of support that's available is one of the major impacts. Shelley?
Yeah, I agree 100%. So, you know, I work face to face in the clinics a lot of the time, and you know, I work across, you know, all of the clinics pretty much, breastfeeding clinics, you know, going from most days I'm in, you know, one area, I could be somewhere else the next day. And just across the different areas, every suburb has a bit of a feel. So, you know, some suburbs have more Irish, more English, and other suburbs may have other expats. And just, it doesn't matter. Even if your family's out west, you can't get to them at the moment. Mm-hmm. Definitely lack of resources. I think they'd be nearly glad to come in to see us just for a bit of a chat, a bit of a connection. So definitely seeing, you know, when we're doing the emotional screens, that there's definitely, you know, people are starting to feel it. And I suppose that's one of the things with me, you know, I'm an expat myself, and, you know, you can really, really empathize just how hard it is. You know, becoming a parent is, you know, so beautiful and wonderful, and not being able to share that with your family is definitely really, really hard. And, you know, some days, you know, there is a lot of tears, and, you know, and other days maybe that same person is doing okay. So it just can go on the day as well, you know, what's going on.
Yeah, definitely. I think added challenges, I never really thought about it from, you know, even Australians might not be able to see their family that live in a hotspot or LGA of concern or in other states. So yeah, it's kind of impacting everyone, unfortunately, at the moment. And normally, like pre-COVID, what did your sort of work look like? I know you mentioned about that the first 2000 days. So what sort of work would you do within that?
Well, the first 2000 days goes from conception to 5 years of age for the child. And with the sort of early part of that, you're looking at pre-pregnancy health, preconceptual care. You're looking at early pregnancy, getting into a model of care that you feel comfortable with. And in Australia, you know, we've got the private system, we've got the public system. But within the public system, there's different models of care. You can have midwifery-led care, you can have GP shared care. You could have, depending if there's any complications or anything in the pregnancy, you might have more obstetric-led care. But it's sort of navigating all of that, knowing when to, choosing the hospital that you're going to give birth at, or even in eastern suburbs of Sydney at the moment, there is a home birth service through the Royal Hospital for Women for anybody who is able to fulfill the criteria, be very well, no complications or anything in the birth. So it's getting used to what's available, what screening tests you will have, what care will be provided during the pregnancy, and then looking after onto the early days of becoming parents.
So definitely very holistic. Seems like people can kind of get that support from very, very early stages. So what I would say as well is that we have the experts on the call tonight. So no matter what stage you're at on your journey, if you have some questions, please feel free to pop them into the chat. You can ask them, you know, you can come off mute and ask them at the end, but if you want to ask any questions throughout, just pop them into the chat and we have time to go through those. So please add them in. I'll come back to you both very soon. I'm just going to jump in and start to find out a little bit more about the parents that we have on the call tonight. So first of all, I'll just get you to introduce yourself, maybe about your little one and your parenting journey so far. So I'll start with Shauna.
I'm muted there now. Can you hear me? Yeah.
Yep.
Hi, I'm Shauna and I'm also from Donegal, so it's nice to hear familiar voices. I've been here in Sydney for 7.5 years now, and in January 2020 I had my little boy Tom, and he turned our world upside down, but in the best way possible. I was very lucky in that my parents were able to come out and see him not long after he was born. So I know a lot of parents haven't had that opportunity. So I count my lucky stars for that they were able to come out, because a lot of our friends have had babies since and the grandparents haven't been able to come out. And that's probably by far the most challenging thing about being away from home. Not sharing that experience with your own parents. And saying that, now the flip side of that is, it might be a cliche, but your friends really do become your family out here. And that's certainly the case for us. I'm sure a lot are watching tonight as well, because they're recent parents, and they've been absolute massive support for us, and we probably wouldn't still be here without them. Sorry, I'm a bit nervous.
You're doing great.
So then another good thing that we found, like our friends out here always step in and mind Tom if we need them. If I'm going to an appointment, if I don't want to book him into daycare for an extra day, say, they'll mind him for an hour if I need to go to the dentist, or if I just need to get out for an hour. And he loves to see them coming. This was like pre-COVID, obviously, whenever they were able to visit. Or if we could go out and meet them for a walk, his little face just lights up when he sees them. And that's how I think he'll be with family as well, hopefully, when we do get home. I think then another good thing is that you get very close to your partner, because you lean on them for a lot of support. You know, you've brought this little life into the world, and you watch them grow up. And you want your own mom and dad to see that. Sorry again. But they are feeling the exact same. Like they want to share it with their parents, and you're both kind of supporting each other through that. So that's a nice thing. You get very close to them. I think that's kind of the main thing for us. You know, supporting each other and leaning on friends, because you need all the help you can get. You don't have a clue what you're doing at the start. Well, that was the case for us anyway.
It seems like you've got lots of support around you, and that's brilliant, and definitely true. Your friends become your family when you're so far away. Yeah. Amanda, do you want to introduce yourself?
Yeah, hi. My name's Amanda, and I'm from County Down. And I've lived in Australia, it'll be 9 years this Christmas. And I, thank you for having me, by the way. I have got a son, Aidan, who was born in February 2020, so not too long after Shauna's wee one. And I guess our story is pretty similar. Aidan was born in February the 11th, and he came 3 weeks early, which was pretty unexpected for us. And my parents had booked to come out on the 22nd of March, and it was pretty much about the week that they were due to come out, we had to make the decision to cancel their flights because they were due to fly out on the Friday, and by the Wednesday it was, you know, we thought that they may have got to Australia, but getting back home probably wouldn't have been, you know, it wouldn't have been possible. So we made the decision to cancel their flights, which was really difficult because obviously Aidan was only 3 weeks old, and you know, my parents had never flew to Australia in all the time I've been here. And so even aside from having a newborn, you know, the fact that they were coming out to where we lived was, you know, had a big, you know, part of the excitement in itself. So then obviously we got home, and just as Aidan was born, COVID really kind of kicked off. And I suppose for the first 3 months of Aidan's life was just riddled with anxiety. I didn't want to go out. I didn't want to breastfeed in public. I didn't, not for, you know, embarrassment or anything, just for pure infection control reasons. I didn't want to, nobody held Aidan till he was about 3.5 months old. Not even my husband's brother lives here. He didn't even hold him. Once we kind of left the hospital, it was kind of like a no hold, no touch kind of rule around him. And it was like that for a long time until kind of things started to settle down. And that was quite difficult for us because, you know, I guess when you have a newborn, you want to go out and you want to go for walks and you want to go and, you know, go to cafes and have a coffee and things like that. And that really became not really possible for us to do that because it was not long after he was born that we went into lockdown. So yeah, look, it was quite self, you know, as much as it is lovely and everything that we do love about having newborns, it is also a really, really difficult and challenging time, especially when you don't know what you're doing, which I was in that category. So, you know, that was quite isolating for me because I didn't have a mother's group. The mother's group that I was put into didn't really kind of take off because it went virtual within the kind of day two, and nobody really kind of kept it up. And I guess my saving grace, I guess the same as Shauna, was my friends that we have here. And, you know, like I was really overwhelmed by the amount of people that came to visit us at, you know, whenever Aidan was born. And you know, I guess you know that you have your friends around you, and there's actually a lot of them online here that I can see. But you know that you have your friends around you. But I guess it's when something like that happens and a major life event happens that you really do realize how much your friends actually are there. You know, and I guess it's something like that that kind of brings it to the forefront that you do probably have a lot more support than you probably think that you do. And so yeah, that was my I suppose my saving grace. A lot of our friends actually had babies around the same time as me, and so we actually ended up really developing our own mothers group, and that was really nice because there was a lot of people in that group that didn't know other people, and it was, you know, quite nice to be able to have that. But yeah, it was a really fantastic time, but a really difficult time at the same time. And nobody from our family at home have met Aidan. We obviously haven't been able to go back, and he's nearly 19 months now. So that's probably the most difficult thing now, is that, you know, Aidan plays with my parents and my husband's parents, you know, through the screen, and it's just obviously not the same. So that's probably the most difficult thing at the minute. But COVID for us has actually brought a lot of advantages, and you know, I guess I also found myself feeling quite lucky. Apart from, you know, being able to not to be able to go home, it has, you know, give us a lot of other advantages. Like my husband works from home full time now. You know, he's able to obviously spend a lot more time with our son than what he would have done if he was still in the office. You know, I get to work from home a lot more. And I guess you just probably don't take things for granted that we used to. And, you know, being able to go out and see friends and, you know, go for walks and do all of those things that you probably before COVID never thought twice about, where now we see it as almost like a luxury to be able to do these things. So I guess it's, you know, helped me you know, enjoy the finer things in life, I suppose, that you probably would have taken for granted before COVID. So yeah, so that's me in a nutshell.
Yeah, thanks for that, Amanda. No, I think for all of us, it makes you appreciate the simple things, like being able to go for a walk outdoors and everything like that. But yeah, I think I really feel for you, because that was really hard. You had that expectation of what the March and April were going to look like, and that didn't happen. So that must have been really, really tough. Thank you for sharing that. I'm going to go to Mum and Dad, Kevin and Vicky. Do you want to share your stories about little Ella?
Hi, everyone. Oh, I'm feeling so emotional after hearing those two lovely moms speak. And it's just brought me right back. So we had our little Ella in July 2020. So she recently turned 1, which was a very emotional milestone for us. And I guess mainly because we just, you know, who in a million years would think that she wouldn't have met any of our families yet. So when I was coming up to our due date, both our moms were going to be coming out to help, because just like the other two moms, we definitely knew nothing and didn't know what to do with a newborn. So we needed all the help we could get. But obviously with COVID, that couldn't happen. And we thought maybe they'd make it for Christmas. And now here we are, Ella's 13 months. So it was definitely very challenging. I'm lucky in the sense that the mothers group that I was in, and Shelley actually was there at the very beginning of that mothers group, it was virtual. But we had this wonderful Irish girl, Margaret, in our group that really kept it going. And once it was safe again for us to meet up, she made sure that we kept meeting up regularly. And it's been a godsend, the WhatsApp group. Like, we don't see each other obviously much at all, but just having that connection with people who have children exactly the same age as your own, who are doing all the same Google searches as you're doing, and have all the same worries and fears, and know about what they need and what they should be eating and all this. I've just learned so much from the mothers group, so I'm really grateful for that. Do you want to? It's our first time doing anything together, so.
Yeah, I think just the challenge, like it's been mentioned already, the challenge of being away from home and not having that support. And probably the big thing for us at the moment even is like Vicky's started to go back to work now. She's got her own business and she's running things online. Baby massage actually is what she's doing at the moment. A little plug for it, yeah. But probably one of our big challenges at the minute is we're both then working and just trying to balance that with taking care of Ella, because she's not in childcare. We don't have, you can't have a babysitter in or anything like that. So that's probably one of the difficult things.
But we were lucky. There's this group that I can't remember. I think it was a doula who mentioned it to me, just someone I was connected to on Instagram. It's called Mums for Mums. And it's basically a volunteer kind of service. And I was given for a whole year this lovely lady who kind of acted like a grandmother type. So she met with me and Ella once a week when lockdown had lifted and everything around last August. I think I met her for the first time. And we used to just go for walks or cups of tea or coffee. And it was lovely to have that kind of older mother figure who'd been there before she'd grown up kids. And yeah, it was just really nice. Like, it was never anything too intense with her. Like, it was just chit chat for 40 minutes or an hour or whatever. But it was lovely for Ella to see someone else as well. And yeah, we just said our goodbyes after Ella's first birthday there, but I'll meet her up in person soon to say it in person. But it's a lovely service. So it's Mums for Mums. It's really nice that they've been operating for a long time, but it's older mothers who want to help offer support to younger moms. They don't tell you what to do or anything like that, but it's just to offer moms that connection, I guess, who, like, not just Irish, but obviously people from all over the world in Australia who have families in different parts of the world. So yeah, it's a really good service. Is there anyone else who we found really helpful?
I
I think the mothers group really has been the biggest lifeline for me. Yeah.
That mums for mums sounds amazing. I'm guessing there'll be lots of people writing that down. So how can you get involved with that? Is it just search
look
online?
it up online, and they actually start offering support, I believe, in the final stages of pregnancy, because I remember when I contacted them, Ella was already like 2 weeks old or something, and I was like, is she too old? And they were like, no. So yeah, you just fill in a form online. There's no, you don't pay anything. You get paired. They interview you first on the phone, and they pair you with someone. So I had a lady who's into yoga and stuff, so someone who's a little bit similar to you, have the same interests and stuff.
Amazing. Just while I have you there, Kevin, you just had Father's Day yesterday, was it, in Australia? We hear lots about, mothers groups and everything like that, but as a dad and new dad, is there anything like that for dads, or anything that you'd recommend to other dads who are listening in, or dads to be?
It's a really good question, Roisin. And the straight up answer would be no. That's not anything that I came across. I think, look, I'm fortunate that I'm connected into a number of different groups through the Irish community here. So I had kind of plenty of people that I could, lean on, and have lots of friends and things like that. But I didn't come across anything that would be specifically helpful for fathers. I think, just when you're a father in the situation, you just get on with it, do what you're told, basically. That'd be my biggest advice for any dads to be.
Sorry to interrupt. Kevin, there is an organisation called SMS for Dads, and that is just a little service that you can Google, and there's just a little thing similar to Mum for Mum that you can just fill in, and what that is just a little text every day. So it could be that perhaps you're away working all day, and it's just a little check-in, a little reminder. You'll put in the baby's date of birth, and they'll just send like something nice and a little message. So it's just basically to bring you back, oh yeah, I wonder what they're up to. So that can be a really good service. So that's just something some of the dads like. There's a new one that I've kind of seen floating around called Man with a Pram, and that seems to have been putting up some really good mental health things as well, and it's on Instagram. So that's just something for you to have a look at.
There are an increasing number of resources out there for dads because it's being largely recognised. Similarly to women becoming mums for the first time, the impact of becoming a dad for the first time as well is equally, well, it's new for you as well as everything else. And just the importance of supporting fathers is an area that is, the range of resources is ever increasing these days. COPE have a lot of resources for support. COPE's the Centre of Perinatal Excellence for mental health, perinatal mental health, but it's got a load of resources for fathers as well as for mothers. And Gidget and Panda also as well have lots and lots of resources aimed at dads. There's also the community groups around. So the Southeastern Community Connect, which is over around the East Lakes area, and other sort of non-government organizations like the Botany Family and Children's Centre. When we do ever get back to face-to-face things again, they do lots of stuff on weekends. So play power groups for dads, to meet other dads, to sort of learn how to, just learning about play really, and how to sort of interact in the everyday sort of situations that you're in, be it the shop or the park or, driving in the car, whatever it is, just sort of making the most out of all of those situations. So yeah, the space for dads is an ever increasing area for resources at the moment, and recognition of the role that the dad plays in the life of the family and the child.
Brilliant. That's
Thanks. Yeah, thanks so much. I wish I'd known that 12 months ago.
It's never too late. It's never too late.
Yeah, it's great that there is that stuff for dads. I love what Amanda shared as well about how your partner was actually able to work from home and be there more, be more part of the journey. One thing I noticed when construction shut down for those few weeks. I've seen lots more dads in the park with the kids and stuff. So obviously COVID has really lots of bad impacts, but there are those little joys as well, like being able to spend more time at home, which has been great. So I'm going to just come back to, I just want to remind everyone you can ask questions in the chat, and I think there is one question there that I'll put for Shelley and Nora. So do you get allocated the type of care, or is it primarily a choice?
No, it's whatever comes in the door. So we obviously see the babies. So once you leave the hospital with your baby, will get sent, or your early childhood health service will get sent your discharge, and then you can either call in, or basically we'll make contact with you, and then depending on what's went on. So Nora mentioned that we are still doing home visits. Usually if you're allocated a home visit within our service, maybe something happened, maybe baby had to go to special care, or there was just something that happened, but the majority of the appointments are done in the clinic. And look, you just never know what's coming in the door. You know, a lot of the appointments, everything's going well, or some of the times, you know, babies are coming in, maybe there's a bit of a struggle with feeding, and maybe straight away there's just, you know, mum's came in, she's very upset, and, you know, you just have to deal with the priority on the day. If it's mum's mental health, then obviously we'll be focusing on that. If baby needs a little feeding plan in place, then that's what we'll be looking at. So, you know, it's making sure that our families or mums are safe leaving on the day. And what we'll often do then is either do a phone call follow-up, bring them back in a week, and just making sure they feel supported, or get them linked in with other service, depending on what's going on. So yeah, we just never know what we're getting, you know.
I think also for antenatal care, it is a choice. It's your own choice, essentially. I think when you fall pregnant, the first thing I think you decide is whether you're going to go privately or whether you're going to go publicly. You chat with your GP. If you're going privately, you need a GP referral to an obstetrician. Through the public system, you also need a GP referral to the local hospital. And then when you go to the local hospital, they'll talk you through the models of care that are available to you, be it obstetric-based care, GP shared care, midwifery-led care, or if you want to see if you are do fall into the criteria that are there for home birthing, if that's what the question was.
Yeah, and does it matter what area you live in, or those kind of like if people were living in different parts of Sydney or New South Wales, are those options generally available, or is that more in the Southeast Sydney area?
So Sydney, or all of Australia, is divided up into health districts. So, you know, we cover certain suburbs, and those mums and dads would come to us. And then if you're, you know, in the Sydney Local Health District, which covers a massive area, you'll sort of be seen in the clinics that's closer to you. So we don't make those decisions, unfortunately. It just depends on where you're living, and that will sort of let you know which clinic you'll end up going to.
The boundaries within New South Wales Health and the boundaries for hospital services, be it maternity services or mental health services, it's a very confusing set of boundaries, and it's all very different. So like Shelley was saying, for child and family health services, we're local health districts based, but for maternity services, depending on which hospital you want to give birth in, it usually doesn't matter which part of where you're actually from. You can book into a hospital anywhere. It's just that all the follow-up services that are in the area that the hospital is actually situated in might not be available to carry on your care in the area where you live. But we would have people coming from the North Shore to give birth over here. People from over here would give birth maybe on the North Shore. You could even go down to Wollongong to give birth if you wanted. The same services are available Australia-wide. It's just how they're locally managed that you get the differences.
And if somebody didn't have Medicare, what happens then? Their temporary visa?
So generally there's reciprocal healthcare for Irish and British people within Australia. So therefore you're covered for basic care under the public service, under the public system. If you've got private health insurance as well, then you can choose to go to be cared for in a private hospital or with a private obstetrician. But for basic maternity services, it's covered under the reciprocal healthcare agreement.
Great.
So you might think that you have to pay for some aspects of care, but that, like antenatal classes or any other sort of little add-ons like that, but that's generally the case whether you're eligible for Medicare or not.
Okay, that's good.
We're completely free, so it doesn't matter if you've Medicare or not. So you can use us. We're free service.
Yeah,
that's fantastic that exists for parents here. Someone has just asked, how do you access the midwife care?
You would discuss that when you book into the hospital. So, for example, just speaking locally, if you were to book at the Royal Hospital for Women, you would get a booking appointment with the midwives, and then you would be allocated, if you wanted to do group practice care, you would be allocated to a midwifery group practice, and your care would be coordinated through that.
Great. So just a reminder, anybody has questions, please just pop them into the chat. You can keep them coming through. I'm going to go back to our parents. And just thinking back to, you know, the last few months or years of being parents, is there any advice you would have to other people on the call that are maybe just starting this journey? Anything you'd do differently, or anything that you wish you had have done sooner? Any advice you want to share?
I think the advice I would give would be accept the help that's offered. I know that's hard now whenever we're in the lockdown and stuff, but whenever we come out of this, hopefully soon, do lean on your friends and accept the help that they're offering.
Brilliant.
Yeah, I guess the thing that I got really stressed about, or one of the things that I got really stressed about when Aidan was born, was thinking, am I doing the right thing in terms of feeding, breastfeeding? And I have to say, the maternity services, you know, whenever throughout my pregnancy was exceptional. You know, I really, really couldn't fault them. But one thing that I did find quite frustrating after Aidan was born was that I kept getting conflicting advice from different health professionals. So, like, for example, I really struggled with breastfeeding. And I rang the Breastfeeding Association, and they told me one thing, and then I would have spoke to the midwife that, you know, came to check me out, and she would have said another thing. And, you know, I guess I find that quite stressful, because I kind of thought, well, I'm doing the wrong thing and I'm not doing the best for my child, and, you know, he's not getting what he needs. And I guess you kind of second guess yourself all the time. So I guess that would be the biggest piece of advice that I would have would be to not stress yourself out about those things, and that, you know, that your baby's going to be fine. And, you know, if your baby was going to come to any harm, you know, I think you would, you know, you would know that, you know, it's not going to come to any harm. And these things like breastfeeding and, you know, feeding so many hours and so many minutes between the next feed, it doesn't really make that much difference. You know, you're going to love and care for your child regardless of what way they're fed. And I, for the first 6 months, that really stressed me out was his feeding regime. And as I say, a lot of that was probably because I was over Googling things, and I was over looking at things, and I was ringing too many people. And so I would say probably just go with the flow, and not put yourself under too much pressure, because I think a lot of people put themselves under a hell of a lot of pressure, especially when it's your first child. And I think it's about just acknowledging that actually this is my first child and I don't know what I'm doing, and all I can do is do the best for my child, and that they're going to be okay. You know, if they miss a feed, they're going to be okay. You know, unless obviously your midwife said don't miss a feed, they're not going to be okay. But you know what I mean? You know, just don't put too much pressure on yourself, because it can be really, really stressful.
Love that.
Yeah, and Amanda, what could, you know, sometimes what can be really confusing for mums is, you know, in the early days when the midwives are saying one thing to you, and that's very accurate and correct at that time, but in the first couple of weeks things are changing so much, and then we are looking up things, and as you said, nearly reading too many things that can confuse you so much.
Yeah.
So, and that is something we would hear quite a lot. And just to give you another little thing, so when we look at attachment and we look at babies growing and things like that, we only need to be good parents 30% of the time. So there's lots and lots of room to grow and lots of room to get it wrong. And you know, that's what we need to teach the kids as well. It's that it's okay to, you know, have areas to grow, and the children will still be absolutely fine. So children are so resilient, they'll keep giving us lots and lots of chances. So, you know, and these little people, particularly when it's your first baby, they absolutely don't come with a little manual, and it is all learning on the go. And I'm sure your child's absolutely fine. And now you can look back in hindsight and realize that, you know, that maybe, you know, looking and reading too many things, and we all do it, we all Google too much, and we've nearly got too much information, you know, that can be really, really hard.
Yeah, for sure.
Great advice. I'll go to Kevin and Vicky. Anything else you would add?
Similar to Amanda, again, we had that struggle early on where my family was suggesting one course of parenting and Kev's were giving other suggestions. So at times we were like, thank goodness we're in Australia. Yeah. But we decided very early on, we had a wonderful postnatal doula who offered us lots of support, and she used to be a nurse for many years as well. And we decided, okay, we're going to just go with her advice, because there's just so many different opinions and everything else about everything to do with a baby. And that was really helpful for us, wasn't it? Because we really trusted her. So we just went to her when we had questions. But I think the big thing for me, or advice that I'd offer other moms that might be on this group or dads, is that you don't have to do it alone. And especially now with lockdown and people are at home, and you might, you know, it does take a lot of confidence to start going out with your baby. I remember the first time we went out for breakfast with Ella, and I nearly had a heart attack. I had so much stuff packed with me. But I'd really encourage the parents on here to make friends. If your friends don't have babies already, seek out people, new friends who have babies, because you'll form really wonderful friendships with them, and that you're not meant to parent alone, and it does take a village. So to find your tribe, I would say, and yeah, hopefully when things do open up, there'll be more opportunities. I was, not many of my friends had babies when we had Ella, and I remember I signed her up for like baby sensory. I don't know if any of the other moms did it, but I did it really so that I could make friends. But it was very full-on class for 10 weeks, and it was song after song. You couldn't even talk to the other moms there. So I wasn't getting a lot out of it, and Ella didn't really like it either. So yeah, so Kev mentioned I've recently set up my own courses that brings in mindfulness and teaching baby massage. But the whole, I guess, reason why I set it up was to help new moms, and it's mainly Irish moms, to connect and to make friends with each other. And we, of course, do lots of massage on the babies, but it's really about supporting the moms. I never realized how hard it is. I don't think anyone can tell you, or maybe they're just afraid you'll never have children if you know, but it is so hard. But obviously amazing. But yeah, it's a big learning curve, and you need all those lovely friendships that you can get. So that would be my advice to moms and dads, to find your friends and find people with kids as well, the same age.
Kevin, are you anything else different, or?
Yeah, I mean, the only other thing I'd add is it's really difficult to prepare for. It's really hard. Like, you really can't until you're actually in the situation, and it is very challenging at times. But the flip side of it as well is, and look, it's been touched on as well, it's one of the silver linings of COVID is, it's probably the hardest thing you'll ever do, but it's also the best thing you'll ever do. And you just, I mean, particularly now, like Ella's, she's just turned 1 now, so she's much more responsive, and you just get to spend time with them, and you just get to have fun with them. And it's just, yeah, you get a lot of quality time with them, and it is a journey. I think it might have been Shauna mentioned earlier about it brings you together as well as a couple, this whole situation, and that's definitely true. There's times there where we're going to kill each other. But it also
you only have each other, so it's
Yeah,
just
exactly.
the three of us, like, so. But that's lovely too.
Yeah.
I hope the impact, though, sure, who knows, but just Ella not getting that socialization with any other kids or any other adults. It's been a
Sure,
long
it'll be
time.
fine.
I don't know. I hope she'll be okay, but yeah, whenever we do
It'll
get
be
home.
fine, Vicky. They don't need socialization until they're about 3. They only need their parents until
Okay.
then.
Okay, that's good.
So please God, we'll all be out of it by the time she's 3.
Fingers
I
crossed.
think
Yeah.
parents need other parents so more so than the kids need other kids at this age.
And just go to our experts then. So that's good to know. That's reassuring that they just need parents until they're 3. But any other tips? And like, I know people use FaceTime and other things, but any other tips on how parents can help if their child is a little bit anxious around other people when they're a bit older after being in lockdowns and stuff like that? Any advice for that?
I think what you've got, I mean, the parent, the children of Shauna and Vicky and Evan are really little, and their understanding of what's going on is limited. They've got their world. They're very egocentric. Pretty much it all revolves around them. So, you know, they're not going to be touched too much by this, and you know that they will be going through the normal developmental stages of people, you know, getting to a sense of themselves, knowing themselves, and then going on and meeting other people. I think for older children, it's important, you know, to really manage what they're listening to and how you're managing what you're listening to and what you're looking at, and being aware that, you know, their understanding of something will be vastly different to your understanding. And they've got very simple understandings of things. So I think, you know, if you can manage sort of the input about what they're hearing and what they're seeing, and talk about what's happening, you know, we can't go and see Nana and Granddad because of this virus, but, you know, we wash our hands, you know, and we wear our masks so that we don't spread germs and things like that. And keeping it simple for them is important. It is really good to sort of get them communicating on screens, even though we don't want children on screens too much. It's knowing that, you know, they do start to recognize people, but children are usually about 18 months of age before they even recognize that it's themselves that they're looking at in the mirror. So they're to be able to identify another person from a photograph or in a screen. It's usually around that age. They like looking at the faces. They like looking at the interactions and the smiles and the reactions and things that they get. So it's really important to give them that. And I think it's probably more important for the grandparents, because they've lost so much in not being able to meet their grandchildren over the last 12 to 18 months. So it's really important to give it for them to be able to get that. The children, generally, if they feel safe and secure at home, and the attachment they've got with their parents is safe and secure, and they trust their parents, they're really resilient. They'll be good. They'll be good.
That's good to know. I just have another question. Can you, and I'm not sure if this is in your area, but if it's not, the ISA might be able to provide some info. Can you tell us what we're entitled to regarding benefits here? Is there a children's allowance?
There's not children's allowance like there is at home. You get, it's basically, you've got to investigate it through Centrelink. I'm not completely over everything. Look, there's different types of allowances that you get. There's, when children are partially or fully immunized, there's an allowance that you get. There's a childcare rebate that you can be entitled to depending on what your income is like. There used to be a payment after the baby was born. I don't know if that still exists anymore. So no, not complete. I know there's not children's allowance like there is at home, but what there is, I'm not completely across.
I would just say, I don't know who asked that question, but if you wanted more information, probably reach out to the ISA, because they'll be able to give you more information on that. I just have one more question, because we're coming up to the hour now, but if someone is struggling a little bit, or you are worried about your partner or a friend who's a new parent, is there any things that we can look out for that maybe someone isn't coping so well? And then anything that you find that any services can help, or any of the parents want to share anything that's really helping them as well?
Yeah, so, you know, we will often have dads would call us sometimes, you know, if he knows his partner is going in for a check, just to say, oh, I'm a little bit worried about her. Sometimes we have mums that might mention about another mum in the mums group. That could either be from a safety point of view, for about mum and baby. But definitely if you're noticing that your partner or your friend is just withdrawn a lot, you know, very, very sad, maybe she's actually asking for help, maybe displaying behavior that you wouldn't have had before, maybe not caring for baby, and maybe just staying in bed, not leaving the house, maybe not texting back. So just something that you've noticed, and it could be something just really small, or it could be something like, you know, really in your face. And we know this is a very vulnerable time. So, you know, when you're pregnant and, you know, after you've had your baby, there's all those hormones flying everywhere. It's a very, very vulnerable time. And, you know, it's okay to not know everything. And it's okay, as Amanda said, to have, you not know, oh my God, am I doing it right? Am I not doing it right? That's all okay. There's lots and lots of challenges along the way, as you've all identified. But I guess it's realizing when, you know, is it just a bad day? Or is it starting, as these days, starting to roll into, you know, weeks and a bit more than that? So obviously just reach out somewhere if you can, whether that's the GP, whether that's coming to see us, or ringing one of the great resources. So even on the back of your blue book that you'll get when you leave the hospital, there is the Panda that Nora mentioned earlier. So when you go on that website, there is a little section for expectant moms, new moms, dads, and you can actually click on that and do a little assessment. So it could be, you know, have you been really stressed? Have you been crying in the last few days? And it'll actually tell you, look, I think you're doing okay, or maybe you should reach out. So there is obviously all those help numbers as well. Gidget House is a really good one as well. So they offer psychology services. Beyond Blue, which I know is on the website already, the Cope that Nora mentioned. But as long as you get your foot in the door somewhere, just come to see us, and, you know, we'll signpost you in the right direction. There's also, when you go to your GP, there's obviously the mental health care plan, and they'll get you linked in that way for some psychology sessions. And, you know, if you are struggling, it's one of the best things that you'll do is just go to get a little bit of help. And that's for you, because we want you to be well having your baby, but also, you know, so that you can delight in your baby and enjoy this time. So as long as you just reach out somewhere, and that could be your partner doing so, or a friend, or a mum in the group, or just yourself coming in and just saying, look, I'm not managing. And yeah, we'll take it from there, and we'll just see what's going on. And sometimes it's very circumstantial. It could be something that's happened maybe quite suddenly. It could be just this overall pandemic, or maybe it's, you know, a bit of trauma from the birth. So, you know, every scenario is very, very different. So then that can guide us as to, you know, what services is going to be best for you. Any other ones, Nora, that you think of?
No, I think, like Shelley said, the main thing is just to take that initial step and say to somebody, I think I need a little bit of help. And it's absolutely, our doors are always open. There's an amazing number of doors that are open. If you're able to just say, I need a little bit of help, that's the most important thing.
And I think, as some of the mums and dads have said here today, there's absolutely no trophies or medals. So, you know, come in, just say how you're really feeling. We're now living in a society where, you know, mental health is okay, and we're starting to talk about it more with wonderful, wonderful services. Australia is really well kitted out for this kind of thing. So don't ever think you're alone, or don't ever think that there's nowhere to turn.
Absolutely. Really, really good advice there, and just, you're all doing brilliant jobs by the sounds of things. So really want to thank you all for joining us this evening. We had, I think that was all the questions, but if I missed anything and you have a question, just reach out to the ISA and we'll be able to answer that later. But just with Shelley, Nora, how can people get in touch with you if they're interested?
Depending on where you live, there's Child and Family Health Services in every local government area. You can just go onto Google, good old Google, and Google Child and Family Health. You can self-refer. When you give birth, the maternity hospitals will refer you and pass your details on to the local child and family health service in your area. But we see children aged 0 to 5. So you're more than welcome to self-refer as well. And usually the contact details are on the websites. Brilliant.
And especially lucky if you live in this area and you're getting 2 great Irish nurses as well.
just a bonus.
Yeah, absolutely. All right. Well, thank you everybody for joining this evening. Hope you found that helpful. Remember, the help numbers and websites are all in the chat there, so take a little quick glance before we end. Want to say a huge thank you to all the parents for joining us today, for Shelley and Nora, and thank you for trusting us with your stories and helping other people on their journeys. Yeah, that's it. Thanks everybody.